Beyond the Gates spoilers tease that Anita has reached the limit of what she will carry for other people. The twist isn't sudden so much as inevitable, the slow accrual of small betrayals, the repeated justification of outrageous behavior because she's Barbara's daughter, the excuses offered to keep a peace that was only ever a veneer. For years Anita had folded Leslie's chaos into the shape of family paid for it, smoothed it over with money and explanations until money became the very thing that enabled the chaos. She had told herself that funds could buy responsibility, that a trust could contain temper and entitlement. She had believed, stubbornly and dangerously, that you could legislate character through quiet generosity. That belief collapsed in the space of a single phone call and a stack of documents. The ledger of moral debt had become heavier than any bank balance could cover. Anita sits with her hands around a cup of coffee that has gone cold. She reads the trust documents not because the words will change but because repetition steadies her. Each line is a history she is tired of writing. There are clauses that were meant to scaffold a young life after Barbara's death: education, starting capital, a reserve for property in a place the family once dreamed of visiting. Those clauses were generous, written by someone who was certain that security would birth decency. Instead, they have become an incubator for entitlement. Leslie has treated the trust like a birthright rather than a lifeline, expecting the house at Fairmont Crest as if buying a home were simply another right to be delivered. The decision to stop the money is not merely financial. It is moral and symbolic. Anita reasons it through the defensive logic she has rehearsed with friends and with herself. Leslie is not just reckless, she is dangerous. 2 incidents with Laura have changed the calculus. The first was careless cruelty masked as a prank that left Laura bruised and humiliated. The second was deliberate enough that it could have killed her. When the police file arrived on Anita's desk, procedural, full of statements, Anita felt the old protective instinct catch on fire. She had forgiven and coddled until forgive was indistinguishable from enabling. The ledger of past indulgences flashed at her like an indictment. If she continued to pay, she would be complicit in whatever came next. She calls Bill and asks, plainly, to freeze the next distribution. Bill has been more than a trustee. He has been a quiet accomplice who prefers to believe the best of those linked to his financial stewardship. His voice is careful on the phone. Anita, are you sure about this? There are legal steps, contingencies. We'd need signatures. A formal petition to the trust administrator. She hears the procedural hedges as if he were already trying to protect himself from the fallout. Are you telling me you want to stop all disbursements indefinitely? Anita's answer is not a negotiation. Stop everything. Unless Leslie makes restitution real, not performative, or until she is meaningfully accountable, I will not keep underwriting her life. Bill hesitates. His loyalty to Anita complicates his partnership with the ledger. He is used to being the man behind the check, able to be generous without spectacle. But even Bill can sense that the optics of continuing to fund a woman who twice endangered another worse behavior edges into criminality will be toxic. He agrees to start the paperwork. It is a small phrase that rearranges many rooms. Anita ends the call and for the first time in years allows a private, merciless satisfaction to surface. The decision feels like air after a long hold. But there is also fear. Will the withdrawal of money tilt someone into a desperate act? The question makes her stomach tighten. Leslie's world is built on assumptions about certainty. The trust checks had become the scaffolding for bigger plans, a down payment on a Fairmont Crest property, renovations that would make her name feel permanent on a place everyone else defined as old money. A careful carousel of charitable gestures and barbed social postshot convinced a wide circle that she was invincible. Privately she has been less composure, more calculation. Money buys silence, buys unearned sympathy, buys a sort of immunity when she stumbles into trouble. When the notification arrives, first a terse email from Bill's assistant, then formal mail, shock has the quality of someone waking into a nightmare they cannot name. The email is short: distribution paused pending review. The legalese is a knife that slices into a future she has already spent. Leslie's response is both predictable and creative. There is fury at the betrayal. She has long since learned to name abandonment as a primary injury and use it to solicit support. But fury is also practical. she begins to scheme. The house at Fairmont Crest is not just a property for her, it is a symbol. Without it she will be forced to live among people whose status cannot be purchased by her usual methods. She will have to answer questions in ways her PR team cannot arrange. She moves fast to repair, calls to allies, threats thinly disguised as strategic maneuvers, attempts to manipulate public opinion by manufacturing sympathy around her supposed persecution. "They're picking on me because I'm a woman who refused to apologize for living loudly," she posts, with a photo staged in soft light. The post is performative, designed to attract those who read grievance as a call to action. But it is also transparent to those who know the texture of her manipulations. The more dangerous move is less theatrical. Leslie knows that legal stalling and emotional blackmail are temporary. She tries the old tricks: bribes, entreaties, a sudden, contrite public statement promising therapy. She offers to enter a restorative program that is more PR than penitence. To those who care about Laura, that won't be enough. In moments of panic, she reaches for the one person she believes can still be swung to her side, a member of the board, an old family friend with a soft heart and a ledger of old favors. When she can't buy forgiveness with charm, she ramps up intimidation. She calls people in the middle of the night with messages thinly laced with threats about what she knows the private missteps of others, the secrets she has used as leverage before. The storm she generates is a kind of arithmetic: push here, collapse there, and the trust begins to look like a small target for a larger, more dangerous game. Laura, quiet and resilient, has already had her life altered by Leslie's actions. The first incident, call it humiliation, was cruel and thoughtless, a public reveal of a private moment that left Laura exposed to ridicule and comment. It was the kind of thing that in a world of screenshots never dies. The memory can be dragged out and amplified. But the second incident is what haunts the police file, an episode of deliberate endangerment that resulted in physical harm. Laura's shoulder bears the faint scar of the second encounter. The bruise under her eye was photographed by a friend who refused to look the other way. Both incidents share a common denominator: they were orchestrated to destabilize, to send Laura the message that she was being watched and could be unmade. Kat and Nicole are the kind of allies who show up not with platitudes but with a plan. Kat is methodical. Nicole's instincts are intuitive in ways that feel like cold calculation. Together they become an engine of quiet detection, unwinding the skein Leslie has planted across Laura's days. They comb through social media footprints, cross-reference messages, and subpoena surveillance footage where it exists. Kat, with a background in investigative journalism, knows how to ask the right questions so that witnesses reveal what they mean to hide. Nicole, who has always operated in the small, steady orbit of family life, brings a different skill: the ability to move in the margins, to ask a neighbor a casual question that produces an unexpected answer. Their work is both forensic and tender. They coax Laura into retelling events in a way that translates trauma into testimony. Laura's reluctance is understandable. Reopening wounds is dangerous, and in a family where power is often a weapon, courage can feel like a liability. But Kat and Nicole treat the process like excavation: slow, careful, preserving context so the meaning doesn't break under the weight of interpretation. When they find a piece of video from a street camera, a clip of Leslie's car near the scene at a crucial time, their breath catches because it confirms what Laura has lived with. This was not a moment of reckless misjudgment. It was a pattern. Legal counsel becomes nervous when patterns emerge. Two separate statements suggest a trajectory that, in the eyes of investigators, is not merely personality but intent. Intent is the hinge on which indictments swing. If the prosecutor sees the second incident as deliberate, then charges like reckless endangerment, assault, or even more severe counts become possible. For Leslie, the possibility of jail is anathema. She has never imagined herself inside a cell. Her worst arrests to date had been social and reputational, not physical. The idea of losing liberty chills her more than the loss of money because there is nothing left to perform for in a cell. As Kat and Nicole knit the case together, they also must navigate the culture of a family that is allergic to shame but addicted to reputation. The family's reaction to the emerging scandal is predictable in its variety: Some denounce Leslie outright, others try to rationalize. Anita, whose decision to stop the trust is public only to a close circle, insists on restraint. She wants discretion as a new kind of armor. "We don't want a spectacle," she says, and means it. The family, however, thrives on spectacle. There is tension between the old instinct to sweep things under elaborate rugs and the new legal reality that these issues cannot be managed by public forgiveness alone. Meanwhile, the domestic theater at the center of the family, the marriage of Ted and Nicole, turns out to be a minor carnival. What should be private becomes a sport. The family, not content with gossip, escalates into literal betting. It starts as a cruel joke. Bill, always financially witty, lays down a $10 bet that Nicole will prevail in whatever argument she and Ted are having about the future of their marriage. He means it as a small wager that will make the living room laugh and diffuse the tension. He doesn't realize that putting money on a fisher makes it a public currency of derision. The jokes multiply. Vernon, who delights in the kind of mischief that keeps him in the center of attention, matches Bill's bet with a half-snide flourish. Danny, who tends to the role of mediator, does this not abstain. She places a small sum as a signal of her distance from the blow-up, more commentary than conviction. Naomi, perhaps still brittle from earlier confrontations, adds a token amount with a quiet face that reads like a coda. Each bet is less about money than about the performance, the family's habit of converting private pain into a spectacle to be watched and rated. Ted stands in the middle of this ring and feels it as a slow, grinding humiliation. He is angry in a manner that is not performative. It is the righteous anger of someone who has been treated like an interchangeable prop. "Why are you laughing?" he asks, voice tightened. He is not thinking of wagers. He is thinking of the years he has tried to fix things, the ways he has attempted to be better. His efforts, instead of being an invitation to reconciliation, are turned into a betting line. It is a cruelty in slow motion. Bill's $10 wager intended as a J plans like a verdict. Ted's answer is not a retort but a desperate wager. He reaches into his wallet and slams down a $100 bill on the coffee table. It is a gesture of faith. It is also an act of defiance. The size of the bet matters because it is the family's language of value. If their small bets are mockery, then Ted's stake is a challenge. He is literally and metaphorically putting his money where his mouth is. He believes, with a stubbornness that can either be strength or delusion, that he can prove them wrong. He wants Nicole to see him the way he sees himself, not as a failure but as a man who can change. The room goes quiet in a different way when he lays down the bill. The laughter dies because someone somewhere in the family nest understands that a $100 wager is not frivolous for Ted. For him, the money is not just currency, it is a statement about dignity. He feels small, and he wants to prove otherwise. He speaks then, and his words carry a freight that the family has been blind to. "Why do you treat me like a joke when Danny's ex got away with everything? He humiliated her, left her with a name that our parents had to manage, and still he was welcomed back. He married Haley and was given a second life. But me? I try and I'm mocked." The mention of Danny's ex is a live wire. It is not just an invocation of old grievance. It is a mirror held up to the family's double standards. The ex-husband's return to grace, marrying Haley, being accepted, represents the kind of selective forgiveness that corrodes trust. Ted's bitterness is not solely about jealousy, it is about the memory of a family that will forgive some and not others, that will smooth certain betrayals because they are convenient and punish others because they are inconvenient. It is a moral complaint about who gets to be redeemed. Nicole watches him with a face that is not unmoved. For the first time in the evening, something like real empathy crosses her features. She has been defensive. Marriage is complicated, and the weight of public opinion presses on her. But Ted's confession about Danny's past and the family's unequal standards lands differently. It forces Nicole to think about forgiveness as a currency with an uneven exchange rate. Bill's $10 bet and the small sums from others are petty, but they reveal a broader ledger of value the family keeps: who can be redeemed, who can be mocked, and who must stay indebted. The night grows long. Outside, the estate lights blink in a rhythm that makes the house feel larger than it is. Inside, alliances realign subtly. Anita's papers are on her desk, waiting for Bill's signature to make the freeze official. Leslie, restless and angrier, begins to pace through rooms that suddenly threaten to mirror her new precariousness. Laura sleeps fitfully, protected now by the small coalition of friends and legal advocates who believe in the weight of facts over the weight of fame. Kat and Nicole prepare subpoenas and plot how to navigate a legal system that often moves slowly when urgency is required. Somewhere between the trust paperwork and the $100 stake lies an unspoken rule: money reveals character, especially when it departs. Anita's refusal is a moral boundary that will test everyone. Leslie's loss is a kind of exile that might spur accountability or catastrophe. Ted's wager is a gamble on redemption that no one can cash but him. Bill's $10 bet itself a symbol of flippancy sits like a small, petty wound on the body of a family that pretends innocence while trading in preferential treatment. As the house settles into the uneasy hush of late hours, each character carries a load that will continue to shift. The coming days will demand choices: whether to pursue legal action, whether to allow Leslie to apologize in a way that is more than PR, whether Nicole will meet Ted's earnestness with equal strength, whether Bill will do more than make jokey bets and actually use his leverage to stabilize outcomes. The novel element trust freezes already altered the gravitational field. Bank balances no longer promise immunity. Legal files begin to thicken with witness statements. Alliances that have been performative will either harden into protection or splinter into public spectacle. No one, least of all Anita, pretends the world will be clean. She only knows what she will no longer be: the banker of bad behaviors. By the end of the evening the family disperses into private rooms that are quarrels disguised as silence. Anita looks at the formal letter again and signs where protocol requires. Bill will file the motion in the morning. Leslie checks her phone as if updates can be summoned by will and not legal motion. She composes public messages of wounded innocence even as she drafts private messages meant to blackmail. Laura, waking into a different dawn, steels herself for a deposition. Kat and Nicole prepare questions with a professional precision that feels almost clinical, shielding tenderness behind technique. Ted counts the folds of the $100 bill as if doing so makes his wager more real. Nicole holds her phone and studies the faces around her, trying to reconcile affection with hurt. The narrative is moving toward confrontation: legal, domestic, and morale, but no single moment has yet decided the outcome. The day's choices have set things in motion: signatures that freeze funds, accusations that grow teeth, a family that wagers on private pain. The pieces are on the board, and unlike chess, there are no rules everyone can agree on. The next moves will require courage, money, law, and perhaps a willingness to unlearn how the family has measured value for generations. The clock advances toward events that will force each member to choose not only what they will say in public but what kind of person they will be in private. The house hums a low, watchful sound, as if the estate itself is waiting to see who will act and who will be acted upon.